Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing tonight?
Great. That was about as stress-free an Edmonton Oilers game as I've experienced all game. You often ironically say never in doubt. I think you're being ironic.
Always. I would
Always.
bother writing that tweet tonight.
It was totally never
Yesterday?
in doubt. Unironically, never in doubt. Pittsburgh
Yeah.
was as lifeless, lacking of intensity, a team as I've seen all year long in the NHL. They just had nothing. And the Oilers actually had, I don't know if it was just the Oilers looking good or Pittsburgh looking bad. Both teams played out of town games yesterday, Edmonton and
Right.
Seattle, Pittsburgh and Calgary. But I think Pittsburgh lost their game. And I've been talking about playing against desperate
They
teams.
did. Mm-hmm.
I don't think Pittsburgh's desperate anymore. They're
Mm-hmm.
despondent. And that
Yeah.
showed tonight. It was a despondent team that we saw tonight. This realizes they're out of it. And they're about to be picked apart in the trade deadline. And they're done. And they looked it. That's how I saw it. What did you see?
Yeah, I thought, Pittsburgh, they were skating okay, and they were, the puck spent a little bit too much time in the first portion of the game where the Oilers couldn't seem to get it out of their own end. Penguins didn't seem to generate a whole lot from that. And they didn't really, I didn't think, play it, certainly not a hard game. And they've had a sequence of bad events go against them, losing games and gradually falling out of the playoffs in the East. And last night I watched the end of that game in Calgary. They were ahead 3-1 halfway through the third period on the power play, and they lost 4-3 in regulation, giving up a game winner on a terrible defensive zone turnover in the last minute of regulation. Now, if that's just a kick in the junk for any team. They had to get some result out of that game, and they couldn't even get the 1 point that they were trying to hang on to when they really should have had two. And Chris Letang may have had his worst game as a pro last night. He was absolutely owned on 3 of the 4 Calgary goals. Anyway, apparently they had some kind of travel delay getting up to Edmonton, so they didn't hit the pillow until 3 a.m., where at least the Oilers had an afternoon game yesterday, and they were home in pretty good time during the evening, as I understand it. So they had a little rest advantage, even though both teams are on a back-to-back, and Pittsburgh just didn't really have it.
They certainly did not. I mean, wow, that was a sad team. Sorry, Pittsburgh. The Edmonton Oilers now have 76 points. They're 9 points back of the Vancouver Canucks.
Who also won.
Also won. They have 4 games in hand. It's going to be tough to catch Vancouver. I mean, there is more than 20 games left. 23 games left for the Oilers, and 19 for the Canucks. So it's possible, but Vancouver's been a pretty good team all year, and they have a 48 goal differential. The Oilers have 40 goal differential, Bruce. Just one ugly Edmonton loss to Vancouver that separates them, pretty much.
Yeah, without that game, it would be it'd be Edmonton be ahead because they were -7 and Vancouver +7 in that one game, the opener.
Yeah, indeed. This is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast with 1 conundrum. What is your good thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 2-0 goal that was eventually the game winner. And I'm going to roll the tape back, Howie, all the way to what preceded the goal, which was a fantastic save by Calvin Pickard. This game very, very, very easily could have been 1-1 on this sequence. And Pickard made one save to kick out a shot, and he kicked it right onto the stick of Sidney Crosby, who drilled a rebound shot just inside the near side post. And somehow Pickard flashed out a pad. to get a piece of it. The overhead view of that, which they showed several times, every time I saw it, I gasped because it looked like, how's he going to stop it? The puck's going in the net and the pad came out of nowhere and kicked it out. And then the puck went into the corner and Pittsburgh kept the pressure on for a bit. And then Brett Kulak, who had an excellent game, I thought, all night, made a good play to intercept a pass and just chip it up on the wing. And then Warren Fogle, who I also thought had a strong game tonight, he made a very good, subtle play, very unfogle-like. He's a pretty direct player for the most part, but he just chipped a soft one up into the neutral zone and sent away three teammates on a 3-on-1 with Perry, McLeod, and with Cece playing decoy on the other wing. And Perry and McLeod basically treated it like a 2-on-1 with Perry passing it up to McLeod, and then McLeod making the nice return pass with Perry going hard to the net, and he just chopped it home to make it 2-0. And that was a goal. I would suspect that one sequence took a lot of the life out of the Penguins.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when Edmonton followed it up with another goal within a couple minutes. Make it 3-0, but it looked like for sure Pittsburgh was going to tie it up, and instead they're looking up at 0-2. And at that moment, they know it's a long way back, and they're probably not making the trip.
Yeah, there was a lot of good play from the Foot Soldiers actually tonight.
Yes.
Maybe they've been reading all this deadline day talk about them bringing in 2 forwards and thinking, hey, not my job. So I gave just a quick rundown of the game grades I gave. I gave Fogle a 7, McLeod an 8, Corey Perry a 7, Sam Gagner an 8, and Dylan Holloway a 6.
Oh,
I thought it was his best game since coming back from injury. He was in on 4 grade A chances, and he made really good plays on all those grade A shots. So in limited time, he just was great in limited time. So that's a great game. That's an 8. To keep it simple. Okay, my good thing, Bruce, is GTFN. Go to the fracking net, to put it politely. And the Oilers did it on each of the first 3 goals. And that's how you score. That is how you score in the NHL, as much as anything. So the first one, Connor McDavid's rushing in. He puts a hard shot on net, a low shot that can be slammed in on the rebound. And who was there to slam it in but Hyman, Zach Hyman. And he is just having such a fantastic season. He is figured out. He is a smart hockey player. He's figured out how to play so well with Connor McDavid. And GTTFN is the way to do it. Go to that net.
That's his motto.
It really is. And he just, we've seen like on Twitter, at least on the social media, there's this chart of where Hyman has scored his goals from. And it just makes me laugh I think it makes everyone laugh every time we see it. Because, 39 of the 41 goals are just right in the crease, almost on the goal line. And then there's a couple from the outside. But he has just scored, he is just cashing in right in the crease. He's got that Wayne Cashman thing going on there, Bruce.
Yeah.
The second goal was, and you've described the second goal, it's Corey Perry going to the fracking net and stick on the ice, and it puts it in off his stick. This is the veteran star player. And I remember when he came to Edmonton, people were thinking, who's going to score first, Corey Perry or Connor Brown? Well, we have our answer. We had our answer before this, but we now know why Corey Perry scores goals. And Brown doesn't do this play. Like, he's just not that guy. He's a bit more of a fluid flow player. But Perry is a net front player, a charge the net player, and you can see it's a very effective strategy. Then the third goal, Bouchard puts it into the slot off Dressel left. Did it hit his stick or his skate? I wasn't sure. I thought he kind of slashed at the puck, and it went off. He passed it off the Pittsburgh player to Hyman, who was again going to the fracking net and put it in. Although some people were saying went off his skate.
Went off a Dumoulin's skate.
That's what I thought. It wasn't. It wasn't Draisaitl's skate.
Ruidel, my bad. Chad Ruidel. Draisaitl chopped it towards the net, and it hit.
Yeah.
Hit Ruidel's skate and bounced right to Hyman.
Yeah,
who was
it was
going to the net.
great pass, great play by Leon, and Hyman doing what
Yeah,
he's got to do. So,
yeah, good
Bruce,
bounce.
that was great to see. I just think if you're an Oilers forward and you're thinking, how should I play this game? Just watch Zach Hyman. Like guys like all of them, Fogle, Holloway, McLeod, even and Brown. Do what Zach Hyman's doing. Now, not everyone can do it, but because not everybody has the strength and the stability on their skates to puck protect and make quick moves with the puck like Hyman down low. But then you work on that. Holloway could develop that. Why not? McLeod could develop more of that. Why not? So he's the role model. He is a self-made all-star, a self-made Team Canada player, Bruce. Zach Hyman.
Yeah, I heard the Got Your Back podcast with Rashog, Strudwick, and Brown, Robbie Brown, of course, talking about him and making a comparison to the former Pittsburgh Penguin player, line mate of Sid Crosby, yeah. Chris Kunitz. And I thought, yeah, bang on. And Kunitz, I always thought he was a really strong player for Pittsburgh. He always had great advanced stats, fancy stats. And yet there were many in the fancy stats community who sort of said, that's all Crosby's doing. He was never like this until he played with Sid. It must all be Sid. And of course, the real truth was that he seized the day when he got that opportunity, and he used his strengths to be a great support player with Sid, and he earned himself right onto the Olympic team and won an Olympic gold medal, Chris Kunitz. And he was never the best player on his line. Well, this just in, Zach Hyman isn't either. He's just a tremendous support player who, does the stuff that he does that allows the other guys on his line to do most of the puck work, and he goes to the front of the net, screens goalies, occupies D-men, creates lanes behind them, and slams in passes and rebounds. It works real well.
Fantastic hockey player. Bruce, what is your bad thing?
I got to go with the shutout breaker. Just a stinking bad bounce. And Edmonton got a few good bounces in this game, so I'm not going to complain too loudly. But my goodness, when you got a shutout in the third period, you hate to see this. And I think it hit, the puck was behind the net, and they were battling for it. And Cece, who, if nothing else, is a battler, was battling away, and the puck hit his stick. And then I think it hit the kind of toe cap of his skate, and it hopped up over the net and down, landed in the blue paint, and basically right on the stick of a Jenny Malkin, right, who had a 4-footer to slam into the net, which he immediately did. And it was just such a bad bounce.
It was so bad luck. Such bad luck.
Jeez, my bad thing. I thought here Pickard was going to get a second shutout, and he would have been, I'm certain, the first Oiler goalie in history, and one of the very few that got 2 shutouts in which he faced a penalty shot, which he did again in this game, just like he did in the Chicago game that he won 3-0 when he made a key stop on that penalty shot in that game with Oilers leading just 1-0. And so he made the saves that he needed to, and he just was deprived of his shutout by this crappy bounce. And the late going was there 7.5 minutes to go in the game, and really the only question at that point was, can they keep the sheet clean? And it turned out they couldn't. But I didn't think it was like poor defending or anything. It just was crappy bounce.
No, it went poor CC and Kulak. I mean, they were in theory the culprits on the goal against, but they're just so fast developing. What can you do? It's just a weird play. Thank goodness it wasn't like a consequential goal. It wasn't. It was, except for Pickard. It was a. Yeah. It was the concept. He loses his shutout, so that hurts. Bruce, my bad thing is the Penguins. I think this is one of. Sorry, Penguins. This was one of the worst efforts we've seen all year from an opposing team. So the grade A shots were 17. Yeah, maybe they'll fire it back, get it back going. 17-10 for the grade A shots. Subset of 5 alarm shots were 5-3 for Edmonton.
Wow.
So, yeah, they just, I mean, they're missing their 2 best wingers, right? Gensel and Rust. Those are really good hockey
Key
players
for them.
Yeah, they really are. So that's a huge thing. But man, that team just had nothing. They had nothing. And luck to them.
Yeah, that second period, once that second goal went in, it was like wham, and then 2 more wham wham just before the end of the period, and just like that, a 1-0 game was a 5-0 laugher, and the third period was basically all garbage time.
Okay, let's look at the wild card race there. So Tampa Bay has 72 points in 63 games. Now Pittsburgh has 4 games in Handburst, but they've got only 6. They're 10 points behind. They've got 62 points. So they're not, in theory, if they went on it, if they'd won that Calgary game,
yeah,
and somehow figured out, even steal 1 point here, then they've got 4 games in hand, and they're 7 points behind, right? And then you think, oh, maybe, right? Maybe we could do it, but I don't think they can. I just think that's so heartbreaking to lose like they did in Calgary last night. And they are in tough right now. So they'll be making some trades, I'm betting. New Jersey looks out of it. All these teams, like, it's not that close right now. The 2 teams in the East that are in the wildcard spots, Detroit and Tampa, both have 72 points. And then the Islanders have 66, and Washington has 65, and New Jersey 64, Pittsburgh 62. You'd have to be awfully optimistic and hopeful in those 2 cities. And if you're a GM going on that, I mean, you shouldn't be a GM. I mean, there's some of them that are been GMs a while there and might be wanting to hold on to their job, so will do whatever they can to make the playoffs and not trade away players. But that wouldn't seem to be the sharp move. So maybe there'll be
who'd you see out there tonight?
Sellers.
Who'd you see out there tonight on Pittsburgh? Who they're going to sell? That someone's going to want to buy. I mean, obviously, the 3 antiques are not going anywhere. And I speak with loving respect of Crosby, Malkin, and Letang, who have played 19, 18, and 17 years with one club. Can you imagine Letang, 17 years, and he's the 3rd most seniority on the Penguins. And is there 5 players in the league that have played with one team, that right back to the beginning of the salary cap era? I mean, Ovechkin is the only one that sort of springs to mind. There might be 1 or 2 old guys floating around, but most of them have changed teams at least once. And so they've got this legacy team, and then they signed the 2 of them, Letang and Malkin, to legacy extensions, and they are not looking good.
Here's a cautionary tale for you, Bruce. Last year, maybe not right at this time, but during the whole build up to the trade deadline, there was all kinds of people in Edmonton who were over the moon with the idea of trading for Erik Karlsson from San Jose and giving up. Who are they going to trade? Evan Bouchard. Now, let's not go back in the record and hear what you and I had to say, because maybe one of us or both of us may have had a favorable thought towards that. But lots of people were pushing that. Lots of people, let's just say it was a common thought.
We got to go all in. We got to go all in, man.
It didn't seem like a crazy one in that moment. And people were all over that. Yeah, we got Evan Bouchard. He's behind Tyson Barrie, and he's not even he's not running the top power plays on the 3rd pairing with Philip Broberg, blah blah blah. And yeah, and that's what I would say about people who want to trade Philip Broberg. I mean, he's not in the same spot as Bouchard was. He's not on the NHL team right now, mainly because there's such depth on the team. I mean, Kulak, Ekholm, and Nurse are no slouches on defense. These are all really good NHL defensemen. So it's pretty hard for Philip Broberg to break in right now. But yeah, be careful right now who you include in trade talk. It's like way back when it was let's trade Darnell Nurse and Leon Draisaitl for PK Subban. That trade talk. There's been a few of these moments. There was another one, I remember, the Brett Seabrook for Oscar Klefbom trade talk. And I mean, that looks a little different now because Clefbaum also got hurt, but Seabrook fell right off the face of the earth shortly after that talk was going full steam ahead. So you always have to be careful about getting too keyed up about trading for, I'm going to say, a 32, 33, 34-year-old player and giving up a ton for that player. Because, man, players, I mean, I didn't even notice Carlson in the game tonight. I noticed him had one shot where he missed the net. It was a good chance and he missed the net. But, I mean, he is a good hockey player. But, man, we would be hurting right now, I think, if we had given up Evan Bouchard for him.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not. Maybe Bouchard would have cratered in San Jose. And
we wouldn't have noticed.
And Carlson would have helped Edmonton win the Stanley Cup last year, but I doubt it.
I also doubt it.
What's your number?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the number 6. That's the number of hits credited to both members of the reunited, previously brief defense pairing of Darnell Nurse and Vince Desharnais. And man, I was watching them tonight, and I really liked the pairing. Man, so greasy, the two of them. And anybody that went near either of them was have to get the puck chopped away from them for one thing, taken out, run into the boards, maybe maybe take a stick here, or I just like the greasiness of the pair, and I thought they were effective. Nurse blocked 3 shots, Desharnais blocked 2. They didn't have much going on offensively, but in their own end of the sheet, they were a load. And it's a different look. Nurse, of course, been playing with Ceci pretty much since Jay Woodcroft took over the coaching staff, and Dave Manson over 2 years ago. They've been a steady pair on the back end, and Ceci, as we've noticed on this cast before, and has been generally noticed throughout oil country, has had his struggles. And this was a good game to choose just to again change up the look and see what we got, and see if that Nurse Desharnais pair and Vincent's playing with such confidence right now. I mean, he's so long, as the new word is in hockey. I mean, with his reach and with that stick of his, and he's very good at the stick on puck. I love the defenders that stick on puck and then take the body, right? Not just run for the hit, but get the stick in there first. Jason Smith was fantastic at it. It was the first thing I noticed about him after they got him from Toronto. Stick on puck, shoulder and chest, in that order. And good luck playing against that guy or getting away from him along the wall, right? Vince takes a guy in on the boards, and he might as well have a date with an octopus. He's not getting out of there. And anyway, I liked the pairing, and I also liked the pairing of Kulak with Ceci. Ceci had a fine game, scored a nice goal. Kulak had 2 assists. He was +2, and he didn't get an assist. He got sort of the 3rd assist on the goal I described earlier, where he intercepted the puck, and the forwards wound up getting all the points, which often happens for D-men. And also the incredible burst of speed that he showed on the penalty shot play, where Nugent Hopkins, I think, toe picked just inside the blue line on the far boards, and Kulak was literally on the other boards, 85 feet away from the puck carrier. Of course, that guy had to bring it into the middle. But Kulak just put on the afterburners. I went back and watched it sort of at live speed 2 or 3 times, because I just couldn't believe how fast he was going, just flying back. And he got a stick in there, and he got a penalty, which became a penalty shot. But I thought the guy was a lot less likely to score on the penalty shot than if he just had the straight breakaway. Anyway, his wheels are outstanding, Kulak, and he's really skating well these days. I thought he had 2 good games this weekend in particular, and I don't know if it's who's getting promoted and who's getting demoted, but Ice Time tells us something. 21 minutes for Nurse, 18 for Desharnais, basically 18 for Kulak, and 19 for Ceci. So, of course, this was a game where they were rolling the lines for the last half of it. So that's not a real true tell. But it does say that, they all played a significant role in this game. And I think it's not a bad look. Cece and Kulak in the earlier brief experiment, they played together a little bit, and their underlying numbers were fantastic. Like the Oilers were getting all the shots from
yeah.
them out there.
That's not who I'm worried about when you change up the pairings. I think Kulak and Cece as essentially a third pairing is really good. It's just can Desharnais. It's just such a difficult thing. Bruce, he got eaten alive, Desharnais, in that first, was it 2 or 3 games?
Yeah, no, he was nervous. I thought he failed the test, the original one.
Yeah.
He's a battle backer, and I'm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that just because it was an eye opener for him, and tonight he looked a lot more composed and ready for that. I thought they played off each other well, and I thought they were a nasty pairing to go up against. So I'm in favor of that.
Now's the time. Now's the time to try it. Now's the time to try it. Because you need to know before the playoffs, and even before Friday. The deadline here.
Yeah.
I mean, tonight Stauffer was saying between periods, Bob Stauffer, that he sees the Oilers picking up a depth defenseman, and I think that's the first time I've heard Bob. I heard him kind of poo-pooing the idea about a week ago, if I'm not mistaken. Now Bob's pretty plugged in, so
he never changes his mind, does he?
Well, it's not that he changes his mind. Bob gets new information and presents it, and his information's good, right? He's sharing, I think, what he's hearing, and so that's interesting. I mean, it seems pretty clear now, and Kurt Levins in his 9 Things today reported clearly that his understanding was the Oilers, the offer was CC in the first for Chris Tanev of Calgary. So looks like the Oilers are looking for a defenseman. I don't know who's available. A lot of people have talked about Nashville players like Alexander Carrier, but I don't know if Nashville's moving out anyone. They're in a playoff spot. So
they've won 8 in a row. Why are they going to mess with that?
Well, why would you? It's pretty hard to do that. Is it also, even if it might be the smart thing to do, it's pretty hard to do that. All right. My number is, I'm just going to go through a couple numbers with Hyman and Draisaitl I'm always obsessed with the top scoring chart. Hyman now is tied for second in NHL goals with Sam Reinhart at 42 each. And Hyman has, I think the Oilers have played 2 less games in Florida. So Austin Matthews is going to win that race, obviously, with 53 goals in 59 games. And but Zach Hyman is tearing up the pea patch. He could easily finish second here. He's having one of those seasons like McDavid's season, weird seasons, the goal assist ratio. Hyman's is now 42 goals and 19 assists, but I'm sure he'll take that. And just like McDavid will take his total. And the other player I wanted to look at is Leon Draisaitl, who had 3 assists tonight and I think this has been updated. He's now in the top 10 in NHL scoring. He's tied for 10th with Mikko Rantanen. 78 points in 59 games for Leon. So that must be updated. And
this was game 15.
I think that's at least the first time since early in the year that Leon's been in the top 10.
He was there briefly about 2 weeks ago, maybe. He got up to, I think, 8th, but it was like and then the Oilers had a couple days off, and the guys around him got a few points. And I think he might have had 1 game with nothing, and all of a sudden he was down into 12th or whatever again. But
yeah, so he's got 3 points up on Elias Peterson of Vancouver. He's played 4 fewer games than Peterson. So Leon's making his move. We'll see where he finishes up. He's only, Pasternak in 4th place has 87 points in 62 games, and Leon has 78 points in 59 games. So let's say, Leon could easily get 5
3 more
points
games like tonight.
Games. Yeah, or 3 more games like tonight. 3 assists. So he's within shooting distance of being in the top. He could easily finish in the top 5 this year. And I would predict he will finish. I think if he and McDavid don't get injured, McDavid's going to win the scoring title, and Leon will be in the top 5 by the end of the year. They have games in hand, and they're taking advantage of it, moving up the standings right now. Connor McDavid, of course, is now in 3rd place. He's 8 points behind Nikita Kucherov. but he's played 5 fewer games than Kucherov.
Mm-hmm.
McDavid's missed 2 games, of course, so he
Points
only gets to make up 3.
Sorting by points per game, we have McDavid at 1.70, Kucherov at 1.69, McKinnon at 1.63. But of course, that does not factor in the 2 zeros in the games that Connor missed.
That's right. So I'd like it when the Oilers win this, do well in the scoring race. Of course, it's all meaningless in the end. The Stanley Cup's what it's all about. See what happens then, and it's coming up. Bruce, our conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
What to do about Dylan Holloway? There's lots of discussion about him.
Yeah.
And people have, I think, strong opinions on either end of the spectrum, and I think they're both wrong. So there's some people who would have him sent to the minors and play down to the minors where he would be first line center, get a lot of ice time. Then there's other people who would promote him to a top line at this point. And then finally, I think there's the correct middle ground position where it's basically, kid, figure out how to play in the NHL, earn your spot, get your 10 to 12 minutes a game, be on the 4th or the 3rd line if you earn that, and we'll see how it goes. I'm totally there, and I think it's the right thing to do with him. He's a very experienced draft pick by this point. What was he drafted? 2020? It's 4 years after that.
2021. No, wait. He was 2020. He was 2020.
2020 draft
right
pick.
After Broberg, yeah.
He's had 2 years in college since then, and a couple years between the NHL and the AHL. This is his 3rd year. Is this his 5th year after draft? I think it is.
This is draft plus 4. He'd already played 1 year in college, and then he played his 2nd year in college, and then he signed, and then of course he broke his thumb or his what's the name of that bone? The hollow bone that he busted.
Scaphoid?
Anyway. Scaphoid, that's the one. And that really set him back. And he's had other physical setbacks. Tonight was his 82nd NHL game, David. So that's one full NHL season spread out over the last 2 years. 82 games played, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points, -3. He's got 85 plus whatever he had tonight shots on net. So 1 shot, 1 more tonight, 86 shots. So a shot a game. Good Corsi and such. His career average ice time is 10 minutes and 6 seconds. This year it's bumped up from 9.5 to 11. So a little bit more. And he's got such versatility, but it doesn't seem to be translating into, how do they see his role? Like tonight he played center because Derek Ryan missed the game and Sam Gagner, and he does have that capability, which is great. He's got versatility. In theory, he can play bottom 6 or top 6, center or wing. And the options, though, are many. One is they can bump him up the lineup. And I mean, I've seen depth charts that say the Oilers should go out and get Buchnevich to give him 5 power forwards and then put Dylan Holloway on the second line to go with him. And I'm sort of going, wait a minute. Don't you kind of have to earn your way in there? And people say, well, you have to give the guy the opportunity to show what he's got. And I think they've given him some opportunity, but maybe not enough. And on a night like tonight where you can give him 13 minutes, that's great. And he had some good moments in this game. On the other hand, yesterday, in which he played, was it closer to 8 minutes in yesterday's game. And I went back and I had a hard look at a shift that he had in the 3rd period, which was the second last shift of the game. And it was 1-0 for Edmonton at the time. And he did a few things right on this shift. He was out for 1 minute and 12 seconds. He rushed the puck, dumped the puck into the zone and raced after it. He showed his speed coming back. He got beat along the boards in his own zone. He made a good play to race out of his zone to take a Bouchard breakout pass. And he came into the Seattle zone and pulled up by the boards just inside the blue line with Connor Brown going to the corner, expecting him to dump in and cycle the puck because they were trying to win the game 1-0 at that point. And instead, he just threw a prayer pass into the middle of the ice, nobody around. And now you got 3 Seattle guys barging up the ice, and you have the 3 Oiler teammates, which were Bouchard, Kulak, and McDavid. where they're expecting an offensive cycle. Instead, they're pivoting and backtracking hard and playing defense just because the kid just threw the puck away. And I mean, there was just no reason for it. And you've got to think there's only one play there, especially after this was a 72-second shift. You dump the puck in the corner and you get the hell off the ice. And I mean, you got to learn this stuff. You got to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I can understand why the coach gave him one shift of 30 seconds during the brief period that it was 2-0. And then as soon as Seattle cut the lead again, he just stayed on the bench the rest of the way. And I honestly don't blame Knobloch. I mean, should give him a chance. Well, you want to win the game, right? You want to win that game. You don't want to be throwing pucks around. And these are still what I call rookie mistakes. And he's got he's got such a fast motor. Like I don't want to dump on the kid. He's got such a fast motor. He does things fast, but sometimes he doesn't. Well, clearly not think them through. But it's his basic instincts aren't always. He just sort of on the fly. Oh, what can I do that'll surprise people? Well, you don't want to be surprising your teammates when the puck's going the other way, right? And so I get the frustration a little bit of the coaches. Anyway, so the options are. You can try and promote him up the lineup. You can use him as a fourth liner the way he's being used now. You can send him to the minors. You can trade him at the trade deadline. All of those are on the table right now in terms of what happens in the next week with Dylan Holloway. What do you do?
I don't trade him, and I certainly don't send him to the minors. I just think he's done with that. Like, what has he got to learn in the AHL? He's got to learn. He's ready to learn at the AHL. Yeah, well, learn it at the AHL. Watch Zach Hyman, watch Corey Perry, watch Warren Fogle. Like all of these players have become smart hockey players, and they make smart plays throughout the game. He's just got to watch these smarter hockey players, more veteran players. They're smarter because they're more veteran and more experienced, and they've watched the game and they learn the game, become more of a student of the game and fit in. And he can help the Oilers win this playoff season if he's a quick learner. Even on the fourth line, you got to have a good fourth line. I have no problem at all with Dylan Holloway on the fourth line going out there and making good plays. And if someone gets hurt, you bump him up. So he shows the possibility of being an NHL player who could score 20 goals in a season, get 50 points. If he gets it, if he figures it out and keeps his shift short, protects the puck, covers his man in the defensive zone, stays on the right man of the defensive zone, and when at the end of a long shift, put the puck in the corner and get off the ice. That's all you got to do. You don't have to win the game for your team in that moment. And he's trying to show his talent. And that's a good quality too, right? To be ambitious.
I understand.
And to take chances,
to make a mark.
But I just think he's like I like both. I still like, clearly they could have taken someone else other than Philip Broberg in the draft and done better. They could have taken someone other than Dylan Holloway and done better. But both of these guys are trying to break into a really good team right now. It's taken them longer than they've expected, but they're both big, fast, skilled hockey players. And when they figure out how to fit into this team and how to help this team win, they'll be in the lineup for a long time and be contributors to winning hockey for the Oilers. So I don't think you certainly do not get rid of these players. I think that would be a huge mistake in trades.
The only reason I mentioned trading is if you're trying to get a big chip and you're going to have to pay a price with a legit prospect and a draft pick, and he could theoretically people will be asking about his availability. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The other team should be asking about.
What if it was Pittsburgh?
Absolutely.
What if it was Pittsburgh saying, you can have Gensel, right? Edmonton, you can have Gensel.
That's the kind of trade I'm talking about.
But we need either Philip Broberg or Dylan Holloway back in the trade, and a second round pick. You don't even have to give us your first. That will be who we'll take, because that's what apparently they want. Pittsburgh, they want these kind of players. So this could well be. So that's the difficult moment
because their guys are so old.
That's the difficult moment when you have to decide between Gensel, who could help you win a cup this year, or Holloway and Broberg. And that's where I'd have a hard.
I mentioned it.
think fair, and that's fair enough, Bruce. So it's not just any
I
trade.
don't
You're
want to trade
thinking,
him either.
yeah,
Don't
you're
get me
just thinking for
wrong.
the big fish trade. Okay,
Yeah.
would you? And again, we go back then to the Carlson, the Carlson for Bouchard trade, which seemed to make a ton of sense to the vast majority of Oiler fans at that moment, is the
Well,
truth, including maybe you and I. And I can't even remember what
Carlson was on the 100-point train last year, and he could do no wrong. I remember being pretty nervous about that trade talk, I have to say.
Yeah, I think I might have been leaning,
But-
thinking, oh, maybe. I'd have to look.
Mhm.
I got a bad feeling that I was all in on it, but so I won't say too much. But I do think it was I don't think I was all in on it, because I've always really liked Evan Bouchard, Bruce, as you will attest. And but it did look like Carlson was an awfully tempting player, and he's still a good player. He's almost got a point a game with Pittsburgh. He's just not helping them win.
Right.
He's not putting them over the top. And in terms of,
Mhm.
actuarial tables, Evan Bouchard's going to get a lot more points in the next 10 years in the NHL than William Karlsson is. I can assure you of that.
Erik Karlsson, he's going to get more Norris Trophy votes this year than Erik Karlsson.
He will. You are correct. It happened fast, and it was not entirely not. It could have been predicted. Like he always had that talent. He just needed the opportunity, and trading Tyson Barrie. So this is the thing, like even now, this is the thing. It was tough with Broberg this year because the Oilers got off to a terrible start, and they wanted to play him in the top with Ekholm. And and then he got hurt and blah, blah, blah. So we don't know if Broberg could play on the right side in the top 4 or in the top 6. And it would have been good to know that by now, but we still don't know. And it's one of the reasons I think you just don't trade that player. I would trade Holloway before I would trade Broberg, because I just think it is so difficult to get top 4 D-men in the NHL, and I still think that's where Broberg's going to end up. I'm not sure Holloway is going to be a top 6 forward. I think there's a chance. I think there's a greater chance for Broberg. So that would be if it's the Oilers. That's where I would stand at this point. What about you?
Yeah, I'm liking Broberg. He was really playing well in the AHL, and then of course he got hurt again. He's been waiting for an injury, give him a chance at the NHL level, and it keeps winding up being him that gets hurt.
Yeah,
and Holloway's had some of that same kind of crap luck in terms of just staying healthy.
Yeah,
and he's missed a chunk of time each of his seasons since turning pro. But that's the Oilers don't have a deep basket of prospects. If they're looking to make a trade for an impact player, the 2 guys that are going to be asked after are Broberg and Holloway.
Yeah, I'd rather they get Eberle, whose points per game is almost the same as Gensel or Buchnevich, and give up whatever that would take, make that trade happen.
It would be less.
It would be less. It would be.
Because he's unrestricted at the end of the year, and Seattle has fallen kind of out of the hunt. So I think, and he's not sort of this obvious prize that Gensel appears to be.
Yeah, if he's the consolation prize, Eberle, then that might work out for the Oilers just fine. All right, Bruce, let's leave it there. When's their next game?
Their next game, they're now hitting the road. They're playing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning at 10:30 Mountain, which would be Mountain Standard Time, and then 11 o'clock Sunday morning, which would be Mountain Daylight Time. So 10 o'clock a.m. Sunday, based on what time you went to bed. So they're going to be real early starts on the weekend, both of them. And it's a 4-game Eastern road trip, and then back home to face then they have a run where they have 2 days off between games, 3 games in a row. Right? They play the 5th, 7th, 9th, and 10th, but then not 13th, 16th, 19th, and then they pick up the pace again after that. So this is a hard go. They're playing 6 and 9 days right now, which is as tight as the schedule can get in the National Hockey League. And then they have 3 in the 9 days that follow.
Yeah.
Nice to win 4 games in a week, though, David. Get that sort of win one, lose one, and back in the past, and now the team's rolling again and creating some more separation in the standings. And the ultimate goal of the regular season, which is basically clinch a playoff berth, is looking more and more secure by the day.
There we go. All right, Bruce. Thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.